Christopher Steele, the former British intelligence officer who compiled an explosive dossier of allegations of collusion between the Trump campaign and the Kremlin, believes it to 70% to 90% accurate, according to a new book on the covert Russian intervention in the 2016 U.S. election. The book Collusion: How Russia Helped Donald Trump Win, by Guardian journalist Luke Harding, quotes Steele as telling friends that he believes his reports, based on sources cultivated over 3 decades of intelligence work, will be vindicated as the U.S. Special Counsel investigation digs deeper into contacts between Trump, his associates and Moscow. "I've been dealing with this country for 30 years. Why would I invent this stuff?" Steele is quoted as saying. One of the reasons his dossier was taken seriously in Washington in 2016 was Steele's reputation in the U.S. for producing reliable reports on Russia, according to Harding's book. Between 2014 and 2016, he authored more than 100 reports on Russia and Ukraine, which were commissioned by private clients but shared widely within the State Department and passed across the desks of the Secretary of State, John Kerry, and the Assistant Secretary Victoria Nuland, who led the U.S. response to the annexation of Crimea and the covert invasion of eastern Ukraine. The sources for those reports were the same as those quoted in the dossier on Trump, which included allegations that the Kremlin had personally compromising material on the U.S. president, including tapes recorded during a trip to Moscow in 2013, and that Trump and his associates actively colluded with Russian intelligence to influence the election in his favor. Years earlier, Steele shared the results of his investigation of the global football organization, FIFA, with a senior FBI official in Rome that led to an investigation by U.S. federal prosecutors, and ultimately the arrest of 7 FIFA officials. The episode burnished Steele's reputation inside the U.S. intelligence community and the FBI. Here was a well-connected Brit, who understood Russian espionage and its subterranean tricks. Steele was regarded as credible, Harding writes. Quick guide: the story of Donald Trump and Russia comes down to this: a sitting president or his campaign is suspected of having coordinated with a foreign country to manipulate a U.S. election. The story could not be bigger, and the stakes for Trump and the country could not be higher. Investigators are asking 2 basic questions. Did Trump's presidential campaign collude at any level with Russian operatives to sway the 2016 U.S. presidential election, and did Trump or others break the law to throw investigators off the trail? While a majority of the American public now believes that Russia tried to disrupt the U.S. election, opinions about Trump campaign involvement tend to split along partisan lines. 73% of Republicans, but only 13% of Democrats, believe Trump did nothing wrong in his dealings with Russia and its president, Vladimir Putin. The affair has the potential to eject Trump from office. Experienced legal observers believe that prosecutors are investigating whether Trump committed an obstruction of justice. Both Richard Nixon and Bill Clinton, the only presidents to face impeachment proceedings in the last century, were accused of obstruction of justice. But Trump's fate is probably up to the voters. Even if strong evidence of wrongdoing by him or his cohort emerged, a Republican congressional majority would probably block any action to remove him from office. Such an action would be a historical rarity. Former Foreign Policy Advisor George Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to perjury over his contacts with Russians linked to the Kremlin, and the president's former campaign manager Paul Manafort and another faced charges of money laundering. The investigations have an open timeline. Thank you for your feedback. The book traces Steele's career as an MI6 officer, sent to Moscow in 1990 under cover of working as the second secretary in the UK Chancery Division at the embassy. While there, the young spy was witness to the 1991 attempted coup and looked on when Boris Yeltsin climbed on a tank in central Moscow to denounce the plotters. Steele left Moscow in 1993 and was later posted to Paris before taking a senior post on MI6's Russia desk in London in 2006. Because his name had been on a list of MI6 officers leaked and published in 1999, he was unable to return to Moscow. But he was chosen to lead the MI6 investigation of the assassination of former FSB officer, Alexander Litvinenko, by radioactive poisoning in 2006. Steele left MI6 in 2009 to start up a commercial intelligence firm, Orbis, with a former colleague, Christopher Burrows. Soon after its founding, Orbis began working with Fusion GPS, a Washington-based company doing political and business research, which commissioned the investigation of Trump in 2016. Steele delivered a total of 16 reports to Fusion between June and early November 2016, but his sources started to go quiet from July, when Trump's ties to Russia came under scrutiny. According to Harding's account, he was shocked by the extent of collusion his sources were reporting. "For anyone who reads it, this is a life-changing experience," Steele told friends. Steele flew to Rome in June to brief his FBI contact with whom he had shared his FIFA report, and returned in September to meet a FBI team of investigators. He described their response as shock and horror, and they asked him to explain his methods and to pass on future reports. However, as the weeks went by leading up to the 8th of November election, the FBI told him it could not go public with material involving a presidential candidate, and then his FBI contacts went silent altogether. Steele told a friend it was clear he had passed on a radioactive hot potato.